हाय गाइज, हाउ आर यू डूइंग? भाई थोड़ा जोश लाओ भाई, ऐसे नहीं चलेगा. ओके, तो सब लोगों ने ब्रेकफास्ट करा है या नहीं करा है? हाँ या ना? नहीं किया? वेरी गुड. मैंने भी नहीं किया भाई. मैं सोया ही नहीं पूरी रात. मैं कंफ्यूज था कि क्या डालना है क्या नहीं डालना है. बट आई थिंक वी कैन स्टार्ट विद द प्रेजेंटेशन. आई एम गोना टॉक अबाउट a date which is very close to my heart. 24th of January 2021. So imagine this, okay? I have just reached Pune and I've just reached my office right after more flight ke baad just. So okay, first of all, everybody is comfortable with Hindi English mix, right? Is there anyone who doesn't know Hindi? Koi hai? Koi nahi hai? Badhiya. Yes, thank you. Comfortable. Slightly more comfortable. But yeah, imagine this, okay? So I reach Pune and I'm in my office and मैं कॉरिडोर में खड़ा हूँ वहाँ पे and a guy comes up to me and he says कि हाथ बाहर निकाल. And I'm like, ये रहा. Because that is what these guys did to every newcomer in the company. And the first thing that they did was they gave me a drone in my hand, okay? And बोला कि उड़ा के दिखा. Now, imagine a guy who has no idea how drones work, given this opportunity to fly a drone, which is crazy. I think किसी को भी ड्रोन दोगे हाथ में वो पागल हो जाएगा कि भाई मेरे को उड़ा के देखना है. तो मेरे को दिया and he is like उड़ा के दिखा and he said कि मैं कुछ नहीं बताऊंगा तेरे को बस वीडियो देखने हैं and खुद लॉन्च करके देखना है. So interesting था. Because that was my first experience with drones and अगर आप लोगों ने ड्रोन उड़ते हुए देखा है तो बहुत fascinating चीज़ होती है वो. And me getting to work with that was very interesting. So coming back to जिस क्वेश्चन से मैंने स्टार्ट करा था, when was the first time that you guys saw a drone? किस ईयर में देखा था? Can anybody answer? 2017. Okay. 18. हाँ, 3 Idiots में. यस, वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. वो भी आएगा यहाँ पे अभी आएगा. और क्या देखा था ड्रोन में? कौन सा ड्रोन देखा था? कुछ आइडिया है? ओ माय गॉड, टेक्निकल गाय देयर. आर यू एन इंजीनियर? ओ माय गॉड. अच्छा, इसीलिए यू आर हियर. प्लीज डोंट से कि आई एम सेइंग टेक्निकल थिंग्स रॉन्ग. But the first time that I ever saw a drone, and I think possibly you also saw a drone, was this guy. Right? And I think what better way to start than to sing a song from this guy's series. सब लोगों को गाना आता है? हाँ, गाना तो आता ही है, पर ये गाना आता है या नहीं आता है? ठीक है, मैं गाना बजाऊंगा और सब लोगों को गाना है. ठीक है, मैं लीड कर दूंगा, कोई बात नहीं, बट सब लोग गाएंगे. ठीक है? Alright, so time for the introduction again. Hi guys, my name is Shreshth and I am a designer turned founder. Very recently I have started this agency called Aussie Flow Creative Agency. I'm building it. It's not completely functional yet, but yeah. Brief history about me. I was born in a city जहाँ पे ये phrase बहुत famous है. Can anybody guess? Lucknow. Exactly. And then I moved to a different city जहाँ पे exactly opposite चीजें होती है. Can you guess which city is this? Delhi. अरे भाई दिल्ली के लोग हैं यहाँ पे. Yeah. So after that, एकदम फास्ट फॉरवर्ड करते हुए, I did my bachelor's in product design. I worked in multiple domains. I started off with furniture. I did toy design for a while, and then I did automotive design, wherein I designed trucks for a social cause. And most of my experience has been with drones. And funny enough, a fascinating field like this can also make a lot of changes in your lives. So I decided to make a change, and I finally quit my job, which was, I don't know, regrettable तो नहीं बोलूँगा, but हाँ, one of the biggest decisions of my life. And then I traveled from Pune to Delhi in a car. मैंने सारा सामान, बोरी बिस्तर सब कुछ बांध लिया और मैं एकदम 14 दिन तक अलग अलग सिटीज से घूमता फिरता हुआ आया. And I started with mentorship again. I joined ADP list again. I am also active right now. If you guys want to connect later, we can. And I started freelancing because पैसे कम पड़ रहे थे. And उसके बाद फिर मैंने कहा चल रहा है तो फिर हम एजेंसी ही खोल देते हैं. And that is how I became a founder. So, coming to today's topic, designing autonomous drone systems beyond the screen. Now, my goal here today is to share as much experience as possible, which I've learned in the past 4 years. Experience not just in terms of what I've dealt with, but also in terms of design and what I think works and what my learnings have been so far. And I would also be sharing a lot of insights in terms of how the global drone perspective is changing. So my product that I worked on was a global product. So I'm going to talk about HMI a lot. For those of you who don't know, HMI is human-machine interaction. And that is going to be one of the core topics today. So, coming back to when you guys said कि 3 Idiots में तुम लोगों ने drone देखा था. 2012 was the time period wherein you had drones something like this, जहाँ पे एकदम custom drones बन रहे थे. But if you look at today's drones, they have evolved so much that they're in mass production right now. ये business में use हो रहे हैं. They are also being used for warfare in Ukraine and whatnot, right? I think you guys have seen the news. So, I would like to discuss what goes beyond the screen, because drones are something which are interactive, they're machines, right? You're not just designing a software, for example, e-commerce website or something like that, right? So, what makes up the system? So, the system is made up of multiple things. There is a drone, there is a box in which the drone comes, lands, charges. Then there is internet, which is required for a drone to fly at different locations beyond whatever is the radio capability. Then there are command centers wherein there are monitors and there are people, operators who are sitting in front of different systems and understanding how these systems work and keeping a monitor on them and launching drones and stuff. So I'm going to show you guys a quick video about a drone and the complete system. Basically, it's basically an ad from DJI, but this would give a good idea about how drones actually operate.
Whether it's for inspection, mapping, or enhancing public safety, when you're facing high repetition or urgent demands, a more efficient and accessible unattended solution is crucial. Meet DJI Dock 2, a drone docking system that broadens the horizons for unattended operations. DJI Dock 2 features a lightweight design with an approximately 70% reduction in both size and weight. The highly integrated body facilitates quick deployment. Specially designed for DJI Dock 2, the Matrice 3D and Matrice 3 TD drones are compact yet high performing. DJI Dock 2 comes with IP55 ingress protection and also integrates an environmental monitoring system to perceive weather changes in real time, allowing it to operate in harsh climates and environments. The Matrice 3D series drones have a max flight time of up to 50 minutes.
Alright, I think that's about it. I'm going to stop the video because इसके बाद promotion शुरू हो जाता है. But I think you got an idea about how drones operate, right? But the thing that is key in any technology to come from the academic level to a business level is money, right? If you don't have money, if your whatever technology you're trying to use doesn't generate any revenue, it is of no use. इसीलिए बहुत सारी चीज़ें एकेडमिक्स में रहती है. AI इतने दिन एकेडमिक्स में क्यों था? बिकॉज कोई रेवेन्यू नहीं जनरेट हो रहा था, कोई प्रोडक्ट नहीं था. आज की डेट में इतना ज़्यादा यूज़ हो रहा है, राइट? सो हाउ डू ड्रोन्स ऑपरेट एंड हाउ डू वी क्रिएट दिस रेवेन्यू? Through different use cases. A drone solves many use cases. For example, disaster relief. कहीं पे कुछ disaster हो गया and you can't send people there. You can't send cars, planes में भेजोगे बहुत खर्चा होगा, helicopter भेजोगे बहुत खर्चा होगा. So, what you do is you send drones and see कि क्या चल रहा है वहाँ पे and then basically have like an inspection and create scenarios to answer for those problems. Again, multiple use cases. There are unlimited of use cases. पाइपलाइन इंस्पेक्शन से लेके सिक्योरिटी एंड सर्वेलेंस तक बहुत सारे यूज केसेस हैं जो सॉल्व हो सकते हैं. सो आई एम गोना शो यू अ क्विक स्केच comic that I made long back when I was working for this company called Flightbase, and this basically shows the complete use case of how a drone might operate. All right. So this guy, I don't know why. So this was a sketch that I made at like 1 or 2 a.m. at night. तो इसके ना बहुत random नाम होंगे, Savage Mike, Mouse the Chore, and random stuff. But yeah, so imagine a guy who's sitting at a window, and if you look at there's a fence on the left hand side, and he's basically looking out and having food, right? There's a monitor right next to him, wherein there's a drone software that's running, and suddenly there's an alert. There's an alarm. So this guy says, भाई सारा सामान रख दो, मैं जा रहा हूँ और ड्रोन का ऑपरेशन देखने कि क्या हुआ है. What is the alarm that is being raised? And he goes to the monitor, he looks at what went wrong, and by the time he is trying to process things, he presses a button which launches a drone. Now, the docking station that you guys just saw in the DJI video opens up, a drone launches, and deploys at that particular location where that alarm was raised. This is the interface of how that system might look like, that cockpit view, we call it, of the drone, wherein you can see trees and some operations that you can perform through the interface. You turn on the thermal camera and you're able to find something. And what do you do next? You zoom in to see what the problem is. And you are able to find a chore in this particular use case. Now, this guy was able to deploy something to that particular location at such a quick speed that imagine what a human might have done in that particular scenario. एक बंदा यहाँ पे बैठा होता, वो बोलता कि यार कुछ हो गया है यहाँ पे, please send someone. And then the other guy, he's outside, he hasn't received that walkie-talkie, so he goes inside and like, हाँ कहाँ पे क्या हुआ है, and then वो गाड़ी निकालता है and he goes to the location. So you see how quickly you can deploy things, right? So there is revenue, there is money that can be generated out of these use cases. So I'm going to switch to some human behavioral aspects of things now, and I'm going to show you guys a video. I would like you to observe as much as possible. It's going to play in a loop, and there might be chances that you've seen this video. So yeah. I'm going to play this video again, very closely look at what the human behavior is when this guy first time looks at a drone. So let's break it down. Let's see what happened. तो बच्चे के दिमाग में बहुत सारी चीजें चल रही थी. पहला रिएक्शन था, ये क्या आ रहा है उड़ता हुआ हवा में. The second thing that happened was he decided to run because he had no idea about that technology, about that machine. And the next thing that he did was go to his mom and उनके पीछे जाके छुप गया because that was a safe spot. Now, if you look at the behavior of things, this is basically what happened. He tried to process things, he was not able to comprehend what happened. His basic instinct of a human kicked in, that animal instinct of just going to a safe location, and that's how he reached that safe spot. Okay? And that was our design focus when we were designing the software. What we were trying to do was reduce the processing time of things, like you saw in the sketch before. The first thing that he did was press the button and then try to process things. The second was increase the time for his instincts to kick in. No, decrease the time to, समझ गए ना क्या कह रहा हूँ? So yeah, his instincts should basically kick in as soon as possible. And what you want to do is make this system safe. Cool? There are funny things and then there are sad things as well. And sometimes technologies are, like we talked about warfare, right? Not good for humans maybe. And there are a lot of problems that arise every now and then. And something like this happened a while back. And this, I think, makes us question how safe it is to use technology. How safe is it to use machines? How much do you trust these machines and how much do you trust these systems and how transparent are they? Right? Let's break it down. Let's think, how do you design something from scratch? And I'm going to show you an example again, a video of the closest thing there is to design a drone software. Now, designing a drone software is completely new. It's being designed from scratch because there are no examples to look at, right? So I'm going to show you an example of air traffic control, and I want you to again observe different things as much as possible.
Yeah, busy position. That's challenging. That's a very busy position. Exactly.
519 QNH 1015, information history, contact ground from the 1.805. Kilo 589, goeiedag, start and push pull approved.
Sam, you just heard the Camel 589 got his clearance for pushback. It will be pushed back straight backwards and then pull it out. After the pull out, it will start up his engines and give us a call when he's ready to taxi to the room.
Now I would like you to look at artifacts once the video plays back again. Artifacts meaning like physical objects, people and stuff and whatnot.
Quite a busy position. That's challenging. That's a very busy position. Exactly.
589 QNH 1015, information history, contact ground from the 1.805. Kilo 589, goeiedag, start and push pull approved.
Sam, you just heard the Camel 589 got his clearance for pushback. It will be
Cool, alright. So you were able to find things, right?
Pull out, it will start up his engines.
Here is what was going on in the command center among so many other things. Right? These were the things that I could see when the video played for the first time. The first was information. Everything relies on information. There's a lot of communication that happens, and that information is relayed to different people, different things and different machines. Right? There's a radar in which you can see what is where and how are things going to take place, like what course of actions are going to take place after a point of time. And there's the live feed wherein you can see how these planes are taking off, and of course there's a schedule to see what is coming up next, right? But if you look at it conceptually, there are two things that are happening here. One is the human layer of things wherein there are behavioral aspects involved, and then there are computational aspects that are involved. There's computers, there's machines and whatnot, right? And behind these concept, this basic concept of what human layer and conceptual computing layer is there are so many things that you are not aware of and you can't see in this. For example, there are standard operating procedures. If something goes wrong, if there's a fire in a plane, what do? Right? What if there's a communication error? Planes crash into each other all the time. Abhi bhi dekha tha, I don't know if you guys have seen, wo US mein hua tha, right? Helicopter and plane crashed with each other, right? Then there are human problems also. There are a lot of times that humans make errors and stuff. So there are a lot of things. So the question is, how do you bring all this into a system that a person can comprehend in front of them? How do you train them so that they're able to respond as quickly as possible? We talked about instincts, right? Instincts should quicken very quickly. So yeah, I mean, that complexity that is there, it's our role as designers to simplify stuff as much as possible. Now, of course, you can say minimalism is dead and whatnot and stuff, but not the truth at the end of the day. Your human mind can only comprehend a number of things. जो वो देख सकता है, जो वो सुन सकता है, जो वो feel कर सकता है. So here are my learnings when I was designing an uncommon system. By an uncommon system, what I am trying to say is something which I was not aware of, something in which I did not have examples of. Here are the learnings. First, whatever complexity you have, you can solve it with empathy. You can talk to people, you can talk to operators in the air traffic control, and you can see कि वो क्या बोलते हैं, कैसे करते हैं, how do they react and stuff, and you can maybe simplify whatever complex problems they're trying to have. How many of you have seen SpaceX का पूरा interface inside a rocket versus NASA का interface. Have you seen the difference? Okay, few. For those of you who have not, it's so vastly different. नासा वाले में 400 बटन, हजारों इधर उधर चीज़ें, पता नहीं क्या क्या दिया होता है. एंड स्पेस एक्स इज सो सिंपल, वहाँ पे 4 स्क्रीन दिए होते हैं. एंड देर आर वेरी मिनिमल इमरजेंसी बटन्स दैट आर डिजाइंड. I think I should put this example in my next presentation. Okay. Understanding human behavior. At the end of the day, humans behave in a certain manner and there are things that we know how people will react. याद है वो बच्चा कैसे भागा था जैसे उसने ड्रोन देखा था. That is a very common behavior of how humans might react to situations like these. And at the end of the day, like I was talking about, you build trust, you build that transparency, and through that, what you try to do is get those common things that are there that you physically see in those interfaces that you're trying to design. Now, 2 examples of these. First is a button. What is a button? Interface mein, it looks very similar to a normal button, normal switch that you see everywhere around, right? That's how interfaces have evolved. I don't know how many of you have seen iOS का पुराना वो iconography जो होता था, right? You remember that bookshelf library वाला डिज़ाइन, वो पूरा का पूरा कॉपी कर दिया था, वहाँ पे ड्राइंग ही बना दी थी बेसिकली शेल्फ की कि यहाँ पे सारी आपकी बुक्स है. So you try to mimic what you see in real life and you design stuff through that. Now I'm going to deep dive into the system, but at the same time I'm going to speed up a few things. I hope you are at speed till now. So what do you think is one of the most crucial bits through which you can basically fly drones, and if I'm being more specific, you can perform these commercial drone applications? Any guesses? Yeah, interesting, yes, definitely, but I'm looking at the system by taking a step back. Holistically, what does a drone do for commercial operations?
Traveling to
Start and land, yeah, interesting. एक step और पीछे लो, एक बहुत interesting word है जो आप मिस कर रहे हो. Travel करता है, definitely. Signal, speed up, नहीं. Drone क्या करता है? I निकाल दूंगा. Missions. So you were all right, but all you have to do is take a step back and see the problem at a holistic level, right? Now you can perform different missions, right? And you need different components for that. There are 3 things that basically happen when a drone is performing a mission. First is a pre-mission category wherein you are trying to configure things, you're trying to set up a system, you're trying to set up a drone, you're trying to set up a docking station. There are in-flight things, for example, drone is going mid-air and then suddenly you realize, oh no, battery jaane wali hai. What do you do in that situation, right? And then there are post-mission stuff. For example, you're done with the mission, now you want to create a log, you want to document whatever happened, and that's how you proceed. So I'm going to talk about pre-mission very quickly. You basically optimize routes, you create different waypoints, and that's how a drone basically travels. You understand different scenarios, you look at different use cases, how things operate, and you try to maximize as much as possible, as many scenarios as possible, so that you are in control of what happens with the drone and that particular scenario, right? Then there are command centers, there are standard operating procedures, there are fail safes and whatnot that happen. When you're performing a mission, it's all about execution. You're looking at an interface and you're performing those operations. Now imagine you sitting in front of a laptop and your drone is not even in front of you and you're trying to operate a drone. I'm not sure how many of you are able to comprehend that, but that's what I did for 4 years. I was not in front of a drone, and that's how autonomous drones basically operate, right? You're not supposed to be in front of the drone. It's supposed to perform things on its own, right? And वो drone आया, उड़ा, crash हो गया. How would you even understand कि क्या हो रहा है? Because for you, it's more like a video game in front of you. You won't be able to comprehend the things that are happening, right? Drone का video feed चला जाएगा, you will be lossless. You will have no idea where the drone is. Looking at a map is a different thing. Looking at Swiggy for those deliveries is a different thing. And understanding a drone is in air and trying to reach a location and battery is down and you've lost the feed is a different feeling altogether. How do you design for that? And then, like I talked about, emergency use cases. Then there are post-mission stuff. You upload the data and you try to process data. A good use case of this, for example, I'm just giving a random example here, is, for example, there are different mines, right? There are different ores that are there. Those ores are collected, they are mined out, and उनके बड़े बड़े ढेर लगते हैं बाहर. And the drone basically goes there. It looks at कितने सारे कितना mineral collect हुआ है, and they report back the data, so that a human doesn't have to do all these calculations and stuff, right? And then there's a lot of maintenance required. You can't have a drone lose battery mid-air or have a low battery mid-air. So here are again my takeaways when I'm designing these autonomous drone systems. Before I talk about this, I think I want to talk about another, you could say, somewhat of a failure that I think I saw or I've experienced when I was designing this software. There was a client in a different city, in a different country altogether, in Europe, and there's this drone called M300. How many of you know about M300 drones? No. It's a very big drone. It's almost as big as this. And then there are propellers which goes at a very high speed, right? Now, when this guy was sitting in a room with the drone and he was trying to perform a simulation of how he might run things, right? He pressed a button of fly. And immediately the drone actually took off. He was running a simulation again, but he did not know because the interface did not show that it was running a simulation. A small indicator of a simulator was missing and he assumed that a simulator is running. So you see how critical things are. वो ड्रोन उड़ा, उसने दीवार आधा तोड़ दिया और वो बंदा ऐसे बाहर निकला and it was a huge mess. But there was a good experience to learn from. Small indicators like a simulation is running is also very important, right? So context aware interactions. You need to be aware of the context that is there. You need to be aware कि simulation run हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है. And you need to devise in these fail-safe mechanisms. Like I've been talking again and again about how a low battery drone is operating mid-air, right? What do you do in cases like these? अगर उसकी लो बैटरी है और वो यहाँ से वहाँ पहुँच गया है एंड उसके पास बैटरी नहीं है वापस आने की, वो क्या करेगा? सेफ लैंड करेगा, आस पास में जगह ढूंढेगा जहाँ पे लैंड हो सकता है, राइट? एंड देन क्लियर कम्युनिकेशन चैनल्स, आई थिंक इट्स प्रीटी क्लियर. सो लेट्स जंप इनटू these challenges again. There were no examples when I was designing these software along with my team. And it was a very new technology and there was a lot of cognition that had to be solved. There was a lot of complexity that had to be solved into different systems. And of course, when you're designing a product for a global audience, you are designing for different challenges. The first being language. Japanese people would require a very different interface, would require how many of you have seen how Japanese ads are made? Ads or, I don't know, interfaces, websites and stuff. They're very complex, right? But for them it's very simple, right? So designing for a global audience is very difficult because every place has a different regulation. Japan has a different regulation, US has a different regulation, India, I don't know, does it even have a regulation right now? Maybe it's building one, I'm not sure. But and then there's human behavior which is common across, but at the same time, how do you design for the global audience in such a way? So coming back to failures, right? There are a lot of failures that can happen both in the room and outside. And that's why regulations and compliances are there. So how do you design for a safe flight world? It's an open question to you all. What points do you think? Anybody?
automation by collecting the data.
By collecting data, definitely. What problems that might raise आज की डेट में?
Computational error.
Computational error तो नहीं होगा. More like data collection में time लगेगा.
Data collection processing.
Yeah. What else? How do you design for a safe world?
Handling system failures.
Yeah, very good. It's one of the most critical things when you're designing a software like this. Anybody else? हाँ, human errors. How do you solve for human? Who said that? हाँ, okay. Oh, sorry. हाँ, train कर सकते हैं humans को better, right? Definitely interesting. What else?
Machine learning में add कर सकते हैं. For example, like if it is colliding with a ball, you can add a program that it will pull back.
Right, right. So that it can take decisions on the go.
Instead of looking at what we want to do, we should be looking at what all can go wrong.
What all can go wrong? Very interesting. And that's what the next slide is basically all about. So how many of you know what a state machine diagram is? किसी को पता है? नहीं. पता है, प्रणव को पता है. क्या था याद है? Okay. So a state machine diagram is basically you're mapping out as many states as possible for a machine. क्या क्या चीज़ें हो सकती हैं, क्या क्या चीज़ें नहीं हो सकती हैं. And you also have root cause analysis failure scenarios. He talked about how fail safes are important, right? So you design for different scenarios like you were talking about. Then there are fail safes which are very specific that you can see कि मतलब बार बार हो रहे हैं. So what you do is you make a pattern out of all the possible scenarios, and then you pull out the common things that happen, and then you create fail safes so that a machine doesn't have to think at that point of time. And then there are redundancies. There are times when fail safes fail, right? Drone land हो रहा था, बैटरी खत्म हो रही थी, बैटरी एकदम से डेड हो गई. What do you do at that point? You deploy a parachute, right? So yeah, that's about it. And I think it's about time we zoom out thoda sa again and look at the future of how things are going to operate. Physically and digitally, there's a lot of gap in today's date, and the technology is so fairly new. Imagine planes when they first came, Wright brothers ने just बनाए वो plane, and आज की date में planes. You see how simple things are from our perspective when we are not there. अंदर से तो बहुत ही complex system है, right? But you have to build those. So there is a physical and digital fusion that's happening, and we want to make that seamless, both for the users who are trying to operate that and also for people who are not using that but are right next to a flying drone, right? Then you want to empower people with the control of the system. You want to empower users with the control of the system. There might be cases wherein a drone is performing something which you had no idea about, and you want to take over that control, and you want to say, नहीं भाई तू गलत कर रहा है. Your ML, somebody said ML, right? वो ML का algorithm कुछ तो गलत कर रहा है, right? You still want to take over that. So yeah. And then there's of course the topic of AI. We're not going to touch that topic yet. But yeah, so coming to the last bit of things here, I'm going to talk about human-machine interaction. किसी ने कुछ पढ़ा है इसके बारे में, किसी को कुछ पता है इसके बारे में, क्या लगता है क्या हो सकता है ये? Right? Yeah. हाँ, as simple as the name itself, right? Duh. Why is this question even here?
How well a machine understands a human. For example, micro expressions through facial recognition.
Interesting. Interesting.
A crowd acts on a particular situation.
Right.
So how can they react and how to manage that?
Right. Interesting. The other way around also.
Yeah,
How
see like interface, how humans get to interact with machines.
Right. Very true. Anything else?
Basically, making a system which is very easy to recognize for a person or human being
Hmm.
who is interacting with the product or whatever it is.
Right.
The emergency period.
Right.
It is not see by मैं क्या करूँ क्या दबाऊँ.
Hmm.
So
Right. Should be intuitive. Should match the real world so that you're able to make decisions much faster.
making product more efficient and user.
Efficient and usable. Yeah. But that's like a holistic view of things. तो Zomato को भी efficient और अच्छा वो करना है, right? Anybody else? Anything else? नहीं? Okay. What are machines? Let's have a look at it. Now, we all understood what human-machine interaction is, but I would like to question the word interaction itself. In today's date, how many machines that you actually interact with interact? What do you think interaction means? Right. But ज़्यादातर machines क्या करती हैं? Command accept करती है. Right? So they only react. But we are moving towards an age wherein things are going to change, right? AI is coming, and definitions of how interaction is also going to change over time. So we're moving to an age wherein we're moving from reaction to collaboration, right? I think this is something that you need to absorb, because हम लोग कोलैबोरेट कर रहे हैं, हम लोग AI से बोल रहे हैं, एंड AI is basically suggesting this is what I think, what do you think of this, right? And soon it's going to have that what do you say, processing power of having those thinking capabilities of taking decisions itself, right? We're going to make it independent, and that's where the next bit comes in: transparency. Why should I trust what decision you're taking? If you look at AI systems today, if you look at those machines, ChatGPT for example, right? It is suggesting you 20 things to do, and out of those you're doing 1 or 2 things, and it's sort of influencing you away from what you would have rather done without a machine, right? And it's inevitable, you can't change that, right? So the question is, how transparent are these models that they are being trained on? And then comes the trust factor. And कल को machines conscious होंगी, तब क्या करोगे, right? आज की डेट में ट्रस्ट नहीं है, तो कल क्या करोगे? So HMI is something which is fairly new. Machines are not that old. Zoom out करके देखोगे, बहुत नई टेक्नोलॉजी है ये, बहुत नई नई चीज़ें बन रही हैं, and we are still trying to devise these principles that we need so that we are able to trust this system. So I'm going to end by talking about these 3 things only. First is collaboration. A collaboration with a machine is very important. It should not be interaction, it should not be a reaction merely, it should more be like a collaboration. Next is transparency. You need to be transparent about what system it is, and then you need to trust the system, and the other way around as well, for all the points. So yeah, that's about it. I'm open to question and answers. We're going to start off with a quick video of how an interface, or basically a whole scenario of a drone software might look like. I'm going to play this video. Again, it's sort of an ad that we used to play, but I think you'd be able to understand the complete scenario. So I'm only going to play this once, so please pay as much attention to different stuff as possible. I'm going to stop at some points, and if you want me to stop, please raise your hand. मैं रोक दूंगा वहाँ पे, ठीक है? I'm going to look at you. Start. So this is mission planning again. You're about to launch a drone. You're scheduling on the left hand side. Also, I'm not advertising them. Cool. So this is a live video feed of how different drones are flying together, because it's a fleet operation at the end of the day, and different use cases. Sort, I think you got the gist of it, right? So let's jump back to the workshop bit.